I've been at 5 sporting events where there's been a mid-game proposal, not by a player, but like a fan or something. Twice out of the 5 times they've said no. So I just think it seems like your chances, it seems like it's just not a good idea.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Behind the Lines Super Bowl edition for 2024. Very excited for this episode. We've got a whole group of the In Play Live pros here to join us. And before we dive into everything Chiefs 49ers, first, I got to remind you all to like, download, subscribe, follow us on all the socials at In Play Live. If you want to see what In Play Live is all about on the inside, we've got a promo code for you. That is Behind the Lines, all caps. And that will let you into the community fully. You would get to bet live with guys like Shawn Schroeder, one of our pregame pros. He makes a lot of pregame calls in the In Play Live community, but he also bets live, of course. We've got Goodman constantly pumping out winners on the live stream, and John Wilson, also known as Gosu Thune, here on the show, another pro making live calls in all sports, not just NFL. Not just football, but across the gamut of all things professional sports, and sometimes even not professional sports too. John, we were talking about you just before coming on the show. You're a League of Legends guy too, right?
Right, yeah. Did pretty well on some League of Legends over the summer when the normal sports are slow, or just when I'm got a bout of insomnia and can't go to sleep. So put on some Korean League of Legends and go to town.
There we go. Awesome. Okay, guys, before we get into all things Kansas City Chiefs, San Francisco 49ers, and the big game, I was having this conversation with my wife the other day about how, the Super Bowl, sure, it's exciting. Yeah, we're watching the best 2 teams compete, and win that championship. It's what every team hopes for at the beginning of the season. But, every time the Super Bowl comes around, it's just like you start to feel a little bit sad, I think, as somebody who, regularly looks forward to Sundays, whether it be from a fantasy football perspective or, of course, what we do in terms of live betting or if you're just doing pregame wagers and, you're waiting to see if your bets hit, all of that excitement's kind of gone at this time of year, right? We've got one final game to look forward to, and then we have the most amount of time before NFL football comes again. And it's kind of a sad time in that sense, but also very much a time for reflection, to look back and see, how did the season go? Did it go as planned? Did I achieve the goals I was hoping to when it comes to my sports betting on NFL football? So why don't we start off there? How did it go for you? How was the season as a whole? And is there anything that you're looking to possibly improve on for next year?
Yeah, season as a whole was a success. It started, as it does in a lot of years for me, some of the just figuring out how the sports books were changing, how the markets were changing. Some of the lines that were posted the years before weren't really there this year. So some of the strategy, like I've always been big on certain aspects of quarters during football games, and I've had to kind of shift and go a different direction with that. But in some ways, books over adjusted a different kind of way and was able to excel in that. And so, looking at that and taking that into account, it's like, well, now how's that going to change for next year, right? Because I'm expecting that it may not be exactly like that again next year. There might be some changes. Be ready to go back to what's worked in the past. So yeah, that's one of the things that I saw for me personally. But yeah, no, it was a great season. Looking really forward to a little bit of time off, but I'll be itching to get back into football by probably by April, and then I'll still have to wait 3 or 4 more months.
It's a long wait through the spring and summer, but like you said, a good time to kind of maybe unplug a little bit and relax. John, what did you notice about this season? Ta kind of mentioning, books kind of maybe overcorrecting in some ways, or perhaps not providing the markets he was looking for. Did you find it to be a similar experience? And was there a period of adjustment for you this past season?
Yeah, I definitely think that's right. Football's interesting. American football is interesting because points are scored in specific increments. So typically we think about, increments of like 3, 4, 7, 10, like those numbers are very key. So I think what he was referencing was books that were typically on one side of those key numbers are now on the other side. And so kind of enticing you to take one, will go one way or another. So that was definitely an adjustment. It's not the way I've been used to thinking about it. But they definitely did overcorrect. And I think, especially towards the middle and then the end of the season, we were really punishing them on that. So I really enjoyed doing that. I think that my memory of this season will definitely be, the lack of upsets, the lack of surprises, I think, week to week. I think this was like one of the chalkiest, kind of squarest seasons out there, in recent memory. I want to say something like the first 12 to 13 weeks of the season, the public was well ahead, like winning 55-ish% on sides. Pretty wild. I don't know that there's been a season like that in the last 20 years, at least since I've had access to data to go look at that. So for someone like me, it's like kind of a wise guy, contrarian, like that made especially pregame betting the NFL this season a little bit trickier than it was in years past. And I think just also how low scoring this season was compared to some of the past seasons for those of us who like to bet against human achievement, as we say. They kind of made it harder because a lot of these totals are so low. But otherwise, I thought it was a successful season for me as well. So.
Great to hear. I love one of my favorite John Wilson quotes is that one about you liking to bet against human achievement. One of my favorites of all time. It's something that's stuck with me ever since then too, because I look at that when I'm placing certain wagers in certain sports too, and it's like, do I want to bet against human achievement in this moment? And a lot of times the answer is yes, and it works out pretty well. So appreciate that little lesson that you provided. I guess when would that have been? Back at sort of the beginning of football season. Shawn, over to you. Now, as I mentioned off the top of the show, you are like the pregame pro at In Play Live. There's a couple of other guys who make a few pregame calls here and there. A shout out to Viceroy Tim, who makes a lot of MMA calls, and that's sort of the other pregame guy in the group. But for the most part, Schroeder, when it comes to pregame, it's all you. So talk to me about how things went pregame throughout the season. Just anecdotally from tracking some of your calls and looking, I think you had a pretty good season.
Yeah, John was spot on though with some of the public data. All you could do is base it off of data, right? So a lot of the systems that I use to qualify for a play do use public betting percentages as a factor. It's one of the many things that go into it. We were profitable this year, but some of the systems that were previously hitting at higher clips in the years past did not hit as high as what they did this year. We did see a huge increase in ticket betting percentages. So the adaptation of bets are getting higher and higher. So ticket counts were almost between 15 to 20% more on a given NFL Sunday, which I like seeing that because as this gets bigger and bigger each year and as more states adopt this, in theory, there should be more value for the wise guys to come in and snipe those lines that are wrong. Although this year that necessarily didn't happen. But overall, yeah, we had a profitable year. A couple of weeks that were a little tough, but overall, we definitely made money on the pregame for NFL, which is it is our strongest bet by far, or strongest sport, if you will, for pregame is NFL.
It's interesting that you guys, are mentioning that, we're getting a lot more public involvement, more public betting, and typically that would mean more opportunity for the sharp bettors, but it just didn't play out that way in the NFL this year with the favorites pulling through more often than not. Is that something that we should expect to continue next season, or is it the kind of thing where we just have to put that to the side and call it an outlier year? And Shawn, I'll let you kind of kick that off.
Yeah, what I found with pregame is there are a few weeks where, in my opinion, what I've seen is Vegas will let the public win quite a bit early on in the season. And then, towards the end of the season, they get all that back and then some. March Madness, for example, I really think that we do well in March Madness. And same thing in NFL. Early on, the books may give some money to the public, but in the end, I think the sharp bettors do come in and swoop in a lot of that profit that they may have lost out on on the earlier weeks. A lot of the public betting percentages, you see that. I'm looking at a screen right now, looking at some data for the NFL Super Bowl, and the percentages are a little scary to look at right now. And right now it leans on a certain way based on that data, but that's why they play the game. Anything can happen, and we just have to hope that the longevity of our data tracking goes back to the mean, and that it's not variance, and that the sharp side prevails in the long run with that data.
Todd, I'm going to come over to you. The only screens I see are the ones in your background there, which is a total awesome setup you've got. There's a bit of a shot of Mahomes behind you. Do you expect, that sort of trend of favorites to continue, or was this just a bit of a season outlier?
I think it's something to be said about when you go back and you say, well, the public's been on this and that, because it's important to realize that these last few years we're starting to see that public change a lot, right? I think you're getting a lot more people betting on sports. So I think Shawn's better suited to answer that question, but I do think what the public is betting on is changing in that the public's more now. There's more people in the public, and I don't know what that'll mean.
John, what do you think it may mean having more public money into the equation? Is it something that you're looking forward to next season to have more of those public dollars in there?
I mean, more information is always better, right? So the more people that are telling me what they think about something, it always helps me make a decision. I think I just a couple of things I'd say is one, I think sometimes we give the bookmakers a little too much credit for manipulating people or setting a line somewhere or another. I think sometimes they just get stuff wrong. And I think they have a little bit of arrogance and just believing that they're right about something and just waiting to get smacked, because at the end of the day they cheat and just take a percentage of every bet that's wagered, right? So there's that angle. And then number two, I think something that is kind of interesting, and I've talked with. I used to be a really big pregame NBA bettor. It's kind of how I got started. And one thing that I've noticed, and I've talked about with a couple other guys that focus on NBA for a living, is the amount of money that comes in on NBA games, specifically NBA. And I think this might also be true in some sense for football, but definitely for the NBA because of how fun I think people think these markets are and how player focused the NBA is as a league, is that same game parlays and parlays with player props and sorts of things like that are becoming more of the markets that the public bettor wants to bet. So a lot of the money that comes in on spreads, totals and stuff like that, the majority of that action, especially the big action, is going to be from sharp bettors. And so one thing that we've observed is a lot of times that the public side is actually the sharp side, because it's the side with the least amount of liability on it. So when you see a public total, for instance, on an over in the NBA, and the number just keeps going up and up and up, it's really just because they know that if they set the line a little low and the public wins some money on just betting overs or whatever, they're just going to get all that money back and way more on these same game parlays and stuff that they just vig the hell out of you on. So I'm a little concerned that more and more of the handle is moving towards gimmicky stuff like that, where the odds makers just have such an advantage that they don't care if they lose on the main markets to the public. So, but I think that again just presents a value. If that's the way they want to move it, then that's just what we'll capitalize on and just kind of watch those trends.
Wow, really, really interesting there. Yeah, those parlays, those same game parlays, the house edge on those is just enormous there. They're absolutely raking on those. And, as a person, I understand the appeal though of it. They, like you said, they're fun to bet, right? Or they at least are, especially if you're the kind of guy who's sitting in front of the TV and you're planning to watch the game and, you've got a few of your favorite players in there. Why not parlay the point guard's assists with the leading scorer's point total and, the center's rebounds or something like that, right? I can totally get that. All right. Well, let's move on, though. Back to the NFL, back to the big game, the Super Bowl, of course. Now, when the game was set, I guess just over a week ago, I went and looked right away to see what the line was, and the line opened at -2.5, favoring the San Francisco 49ers. And so right away I knew, oh, here we go. We're going to have the Kansas City Chiefs as an underdog again in the playoffs here. It's become a trend. It's already a storyline, and we're going to have it one more time here for the Super Bowl. So, Shawn, I want to start off with you as the pregame guy. When you saw the line open at -2.5, and since then, I think we've seen it shift a little bit towards the KC side. I think it even got as low as -1. In favor of the 49ers. So shifting towards the KC side. But now I'm seeing it back at -2 flat, I think was the latest I saw when I checked today. Shawn, what did you think of the line? What do you think of the line movement that we've seen over the past week and a bit?
Well, I think there's a lot of factors here, right? Like Kansas City Chiefs are like the New York Yankees, are like the Los Angeles Lakers. They've got a lot of people that are rooting for Kelsey and Taylor Swift and Mahomes. And I think that you've got people that don't even know how to spell football betting on this game and betting on the Chiefs. It's a feel-good story, right? I like the San Francisco side personally, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm just looking at the data, and you see 28% of the bets and roughly 31% of the money currently right now on approximately 300,000 tickets, which will go over 1 million tickets by game day. That's a very large handle. It's going to be the largest handle that the books have had all year. John's points are all valid too. There's so many other things you could bet on, but I really see value in San Francisco personally on the side, and I see value on the under. But that's not anything different, right? When there's a lot of eyes on a public game, they always think there's going to be more scoring. And these two teams could score 80 points, right? Mm-hmm. But the script reads perfectly for San Fran to cover and the under to cover. We'll see what happens. I mean, we'll see what happens.
That game total you're referencing too, when I last saw it, 47.5. Is that still what you're seeing? 47.5 right across the board, guys? Yeah. Okay. So, Ta, over to you then. What did you think of the opening lines here? -2.5, now sitting about -2, and the game total 47.5. Anything that kind of struck you at first?
Yeah, I mean, so I remember watching the games, and I had all the sports books open as those games are finishing, and it was funny. I think it went from -2.5, like on I'll specifically reference a book that basically changes their line because of action, like Bookmaker and Pinnacle. And I remember watching those books, and they start out at -2.5, and it went all the way down to almost a pick 'em at one point, before going back and kind of settling at 1.5 there for a minute. And, it's at 2 now, and who knows, maybe it closes back at 2.5 again. But what did I think of it? I mean, I'll be honest. One of the first bets I made, I bet under 48. So I paid a little juice to get that number. I wanted the whole number, and I thought that was good value at that time. Still think it's a good value. I think it went down to 47 at one time, but like you said, I think it's back at 47.5. I like that bet and made that bet pretty much right away. And, that's what I mean, who knows, right? Pre-game betting is not the big part of my game, but certainly something I liked immediately and something I took a position in.
Okay, so far we've got Shawn and Todd both favoring the under initially, and both sort of looking at the under. John, that fits right into your line of thinking in terms of betting against human achievement, or perhaps in this case, betting in favor of defensive achievement. I don't know. That might be another way to look at it. But John, anything that struck you initially, and are you kind of in line with what Todd and Shawn are thinking?
Yeah, I mean, no surprise here. Already bet the under. Bet it as soon as the line opened. I actually got a little bit down on the 48.5. I was actually at the book. I was in Vegas, so I was able to have a couple more options that are a little dumber open to me there. So I got a little bit of action on the 48.5. Also bet that 48. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of points in a game that's often played very conservatively, and I think also you look at the way both of these teams have played the last few weeks, really leaning heavy on the run, really slow, methodical drives. I think couple weeks to prepare all these things, and then like the dead time in the Super Bowl is something I think a lot of people don't talk about. It's tough to get into a rhythm when halftime's almost an hour. Like it's almost like you're starting a second game. So I love that angle. I've played the under a couple times recently as well. It's worked out for me, so I love that. And I agree with Shawn too on San Francisco. I don't know anybody that knows anybody that's bet on San Francisco yet. So I think to me it's kind of funny, like just watching that line and the refusal to move to Kansas City, the Kansas City side, and then to watch it come back once the books they open up and they don't take much action because they're trying to put out feelers, right? They're trying to see what the market looks like. And then now, as they're willing to take more and more action, just seeing it go back to where it was, I think is pretty interesting to me. So I agree. I think there's value on San Francisco, but I would much rather, I think, put my money on the under before that.
Let's get to the other side of this then, John, that you kind of mentioned when we were talking about NBA, but player props are such a big thing now. And I think a lot of people out there, especially average recreational bettors out there who may be listening, have maybe already created their same game player prop parlays, and I anticipate a lot of people doing that, whether it's recreational or even some people out there who think that they've got an edge or that, they're seeing something perhaps that, is flying under the radar. John, would you experiment with any of that for the Super Bowl? Is it worth it at all in your opinion? Or is it the kind of thing that you're just like, no, I'll just put it to the side?
Well, I mean, let's say I've got 3 units or something on an under in the game. Like I might split a quarter unit up into a bunch of little dumb prop bets that are fun for the Super Bowl. The Gatorade, how many planes are going to fly over, how long the anthem, like over under Taylor Swift, sightings, like stuff like that. I think is fun. I just think you gotta like, is what Usher to start with. Yeah, as his first song plus 200, like sign me up, like I can just imagine him coming out to that. Like I think stuff like that is fun. So I'll do that. And then player props, I like more of the long shot stuff in the Super Bowl. I bet, I think guys in here remember on the national championship game for college, I bet that at least 3 different people would throw a pass. It didn't win, but I think bets like that are like good bets, like weird, quirky stuff to happen in the game. I like betting long shot wide receivers to win MVP or stuff like that. I think stuff like that is where the value is, because a lot of weird plays are going to get called. A lot of stuff's going to come out of nowhere, and they're going to run stuff to confuse the opponent as well. So those are kind of where I look for that stuff, not just like your average like over under and receptions and stuff.
Shawn, you'll make some pregame player prop calls into the group for a smaller percentage than some of your other calls, but have you got any early lean player props that you're looking at? Is player props going to be a big part of your Sunday preparation?
I'll look. I've got some models that I look at. They're very volatile. Initially, I liked Kittle's over on receiving yards just because he does good man-to-man. That got bet up a little bit. I was initially seeing it, I think 49.5-ish. I'm not sure where it's at right now. Purdy's rushing yards, actually taking the under on that was something I liked. Again, these are based on matchups and models, so he can get that in one run. But the way that I was looking at that, there was over a 20% variance on the model, and I like them. But those can move so much. And to John's point, it's peanuts compared to the under on the game. I agree with everything he said. My under wager is going to be much larger than my San Fran wager. My props are going to be much less than all of that. And I'll throw some beer money on a couple parlays. I'll be looking to see if DraftKings does something stupid with the coin flip being left open on a book or something, and be willing to burn an account that I don't care about on stupid things like that. But there's always something crazy that happens. To John's point, he mentioned that on the Super Bowl, you just never know. And some of these outlier books don't adjust quick enough. So
always something unexpected, always something crazy at the Super Bowl. You never know when it's going to come. It could be on the field of play, or it could be on the stage at halftime, or it could come after the game's over. Todd, are there anything player prop wise, any beer money that you might put together on some props?
Yeah, I kind of quietly bet these player props every week. And my strategy on those is not necessarily the actual total for the players, but rather take some of those alternate lines and parlay several for the same game parlay. So again, kind of butter some books, but I like Pacheco's rushing. I'll probably take like a Pacheco 50 plus rushing combined with some an alt over for both Kittle and Kelsey. So not their lines, but a lower line than what they're supposed to have. Combine both of those. And something like that. That's because I think that's that's probably the way I'm going to attack it. So something with Kittle, I'll probably have 4, but Kittle, Pacheco, and Kelsey, with Pacheco being 50 plus rushing, and I don't know what the lines are on Kittle and Kelsey, but look at those and probably parlay those two, and then try to find a fourth to go in. But again, small action, not I've got a substantial bet on that under already. That'll be my biggest bet for sure. But I'll have some action on a same game parlay with those 3 and somebody else probably.
For the record, I've never heard of a guy named Hiddle ever.
Yeah, right.
No, never heard of anyone named Hiddle. little.
You take a Hiddle middle on those parlays there.
A little inside in-play live joke there for the community. If you're not a part of in-play live, you wouldn't get that one. But for the folks on the inside, you probably know what we're talking about there. But okay, we've talked a lot about the pregame stuff here, the lines, props, all that sort of stuff. But we are in-play live. We bet live. Most of our significant wagers are going to be placed live during the game. Todd, is there anything that changes in terms of your live betting strategies for the Super Bowl that might be slightly different than what you did throughout the entire season? Or is it just, hey, status quo, we're deploying the same stuff here?
I think it's largely the status quo. I don't think you want to we're talking about all these pregame bets, but at the end of the day, once these games start, I forget about those pregame bets.
Yeah.
Right? You got to watch the game that you're watching, and things sometimes don't go the way you're expecting. Like right now, I could see myself being in a situation where I know I like this under pregame, and if the Chiefs have the lead going into the second half, I'm probably going to like those bets I already like more, right? The Chiefs had like I think the second half under in Chiefs games this year is like 17-2 or something. So, if they're in the lead, I'm going to like that even more because I know they're going to slow the game down. And I think the Niners are like really slow. I don't know their exact, but they're really slow in the second half as well. So that's something I'm already thinking about. But, at the end of the day, you can't let that lock you into anything. It's just same stuff we've been doing all year, right? The strategies that you've seen on the streams week in and week out, got to look at them each and apply it to this as well. But knowing that we do know these teams better than we've known any teams all year. We've seen them play more games than anybody else all year, and we know a little more information about them, and hopefully can find some advantages on that.
Yeah, for sure. John, anything for you when it comes to betting live, or kind of just what Todd said there?
No, I think that's right. I mean, it's at the end of the day, I think the game, once you're playing a game, I think a lot of the pomp and circumstance of what you're doing kind of goes away. Like from a competitor standpoint or like a play caller standpoint, that, it's like at the end of the day, you're back kind of in the motions of it. The only caveat I think is when the team who's in the lead specifically, I think will have a very high propensity to play ultra conservatively in these games, especially compared to what we've been seeing in the modern NFL, like this year and a little bit, like this year especially, last year a little bit, but just the throwing the ball up 7 with 4 minutes left, on first down and like that kind of stuff. Like I just don't think you're going to see. We haven't seen a lot of that. Just first of all, in the playoffs have been very conservative at the end of the game, unless you're Dan Campbell.
I was just gonna say,
but outside of him, that's pretty much it. And especially at the end of the game last year, I remember being at a Super Bowl party knowing that the game could end, and that if there was a first down, the Chiefs would know to go down. And just telling everybody at the party, like, guys, like, lay on that under, like, let's go. Like, it's, because like they were so close to the end zone, the books like almost assumed they had to score, and so they were paying like plus 130 or something for there to be no more points, and all they needed was one first down. So stuff like that, it's like a lot of these books are going to have these lines open late. They're going to want to get as much action as they can the whole game, and you can really exploit like the ultra conservative nature, I think, sometimes.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that moment early in the season with the Chiefs when Mahomes went down, and of course, Twitter and social media blew up with all the conspiracy theories about all of that, and I just laughed because I remember we all took the under, we all just hammered that under, and came out winners out of that one. What a great moment there.
Not to say that I haven't won money on what I do believe are conspiracies in professional sports, but I don't believe that one was one in particular.
Okay, thanks for clearing the record there. All right. If we ever have a conspiracy show, you're coming back on for that one. All right. So the other thing here, though, is that you mentioned that we've had a chance to watch these teams, and that if one of the teams are in the lead, they're very likely to play very conservatively. I would make the argument that these are two already of the most conservative teams that we've seen in the league all season long. They played very conservative games. Regardless of the week or the spot they were in, it seems like it's just their style. So, Shawn, I guess that, is something that factors into your thinking on the under. Would you agree that these teams are among the more conservative teams? And is that something that you're hoping to or expecting to capitalize on live?
Yeah, I think you have to, if you get a lead in these games, clock management becomes almost as big as a 50-yard pass. I mean, if you can hold on to the ball for an 8 or 9 minute drive and score, I mean, you're not really giving your opponent much time to do much else. And for me, I don't look at that initially. I immediately am drawn to the betting percentages and seeing that everybody's pounding the over. Then I start to get a little more granular with the game and then incorporate those things into the mix. So it follows right into a script of why I love the under on this game. And we did see a lot of that later in the season from both these teams. Pacheco really turned the dial up, and his rushing's been great. And, you get the lead, you're going to have to hold on to it. Purdy's not getting any respect. We saw the comments from who was it that made the comment?
Are you thinking Cam Newton?
Cam Newton's comment, and all the hate. You're maybe the 10th or 11th best guy on the team.
Yeah.
You get so much of that these guys are all going to be out there trying to prove a statement. You get a lead, you're going to hold on to it. And these are two, in my opinion, great coaches, and they know how to manage the clock. Dan Campbell's not out there. It's going to be a different game.
I loved Purdy's response to Cam. There's 90 quarterbacks in the league, and Cam ain't one. I thought that was just perfect, because you're right. Purdy's not, just hasn't been able to get the respect that maybe he deserves. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know. I mean, the guy does have an all-star cast around him, but you know what? This big game will be huge for him and his future in the NFL. And that's a really kind of exciting storyline to see, because I think what he's done this season has been pretty phenomenal, though, in terms of just being able to lead a team like that to the success and to where they're at now. It's been a lot of fun to watch. All right. Speaking of a lot of fun, John, I think you referenced some of the weird, silly, odd bets that come with the Super Bowl. I want to go through some of these with you guys here, and I'm gonna pick one, and I'm gonna throw it at one of you guys, and I just want you to give me your pick on it. Okay, so we'll just sort of go around the horn here with some of these fun ones. There's so many of them, so I'm definitely not getting to them all, but we'll do a few fun ones here, and we'll go around the horn as they speak on them. All right, so. The first one here is how many times will Taylor Swift be shown? The over-under is at 4.5. Ta, you going under or over on 4.5 for Taylor Swift being shown?
I'm gonna go over.
Over.
Well, over.
Over. Lock it in. Especially if the Chiefs do win, then I think we're going to see plenty of her. It's going to go way over that number. But I
need to look at the might need to look at the rules to see, does the post game, the time have to run out or not? You know, certainly if they win, I like the over, but I feel like they're going to show her at least 5 times.
Okay,
like
John,
a correlated parlay there, over and a little correlated parlay.
There you go. Yeah, that could work. Okay, somebody a lot less popular than Taylor Swift. John, how many times will Roger Goodell be shown? Over or under 1.5?
Oh man, I'm gonna say under 1.5. I'm gonna go under. I just think most casual people watching the Super Bowl I think it's on CBS this year, they don't care about Roger Goodell. They'll show him and they'll move on. I think the thing that would worry me the most about that bet is if there's some sort of serious injury. I think they'll show him multiple times just in that one time frame. So that's, to me, it's kind of like you're betting, will there like somebody need to go like get real attention. So but I like the under.
Hey, that's a good point there. I mean, if we get like, a blatant headshot or something like that, or someone's got to go into concussion protocol, that could very, very easily go over. But good point there. Hopefully we don't see anything like that during the game and we have a nice clean game. I think that's what most football fans would be hoping for and looking forward to. All right, over to you, Shawn, on this next one. Will an unauthorized person enter the field? Will we get a streaker or somebody else rushing out there to do something that they shouldn't be? Here are the odds. The yes is plus 300 or 4.0 for those of you who like decimals. So yes, plus 300, and no is minus 500. Shawn, where are you putting your money on that?
I'm going to put on yes. I mean, I think something like that, if it's going to happen too, like, I don't know if you can remember, was it last year or the year before, the guy that actually made the huge bet is the one that went out and actually ran on the field to win the money on that bet. So I think that stuff happens. I don't think we all necessarily will see it on the cameras. They're really good at distracting from that. But I think somebody's going to make an attempt to try to get on the field and do something stupid, especially once the alcohol gets flowing. It's whether or not we'll see it and whether or not the books will count it as a win. Because if we didn't see it, did it really happen, right?
That's a good point. Yeah, if it doesn't make the broadcast, did it happen?
Right.
Shawn, is there any steam movement on that?
You see some reverse there's some pinnacle reverse line movement on that. Good sign. Adding, hang on.
Okay, moving on. Another one of the weird bets out there is they have a lot of these commercial ads, companies versus each other. And so the first one up here is, it's kind of like whose ad will be shown first. Ta, over to you. BMW at minus 110 versus Coors Light at minus 130.
Well, I'll probably just flip a coin on that one and pay the juice and go with Coors Light.
Coors Light. All right. John, booking.com versus Hellman's. And I think it's minus 110 on both sides.
Is it Hellman's like the mayonnaise?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man. I guess I'll go mayonnaise because people will probably be using some mayonnaise for Super Bowl snacks, I guess. I don't know.
Mayonnaise was a headline preseason, I remember, thanks to that quarterback, Will Levis. Yeah, Will Levis.
Yep.
Yeah, putting the mayo in his coffee. That just sounds disgusting. Yeah. I wonder if Hellman's would try to, rope him into being a pitch guy for them. It would make sense. Okay, Schroeder, Drumstick versus Uber Eats. Whose commercial gets shown first?
I go with Uber Eats.
Uber Eats, yeah. I think I'm probably with you on that one. Okay, I think, John, you might have referenced this one earlier in the show, but the liquid to get poured on the winning coach at the end of the game, and we've got a whole bunch here. So I'll read them in terms of from lowest odds to highest. So purple liquid, purple Gatorade or whatever it might be, purple juice at plus 185, red plus 260, blue plus 400, lime green or yellow plus 420, orange plus 550, clear or just plain water at plus 900, and none of the above at plus 2,000. John, where are you putting your money?
I'm assuming the purple is the favorite because of the conspiracy around the colors of the Super Bowl. I'm not sure, but I'm surprised red is not favored since both teams have red in their colors. So I'm going to go with red.
All right, plus 260 on the red there. Yeah. Shawn, are you in line with John there?
I mean, anything could happen there, right? So I was going to say yellow would go with, just because that was our Team USA softball color, but who knows? Who knows what'll happen?
Ta, where are you going?
Man, I really like both those bets, but hearing that the public is on both of those things, I'm just going to go with clear or water. I've got to go that route. It's the way to go. Give me the plus money. Let's go.
Yeah, plus 900 on water. You get 10 to 1 odds on water. Why not just plain old water? Water and ice, right?
That's right.
I could definitely see that, and at those odds, why not? Okay, a big storyline heading into this game. Of course, we got to bring Taylor Swift back into it, and a lot of talk of Kelsey proposing to Taylor after the Super Bowl, especially if the Chiefs win. All right, so the yes side of that is at 12 to 1. The no side is at minus 3,500. John, are we taking a side here? Will Kelsey propose to Taylor?
I mean, that you want to talk about steam. I think that line, I think the no opened at minus 350. I remember seeing some people send me some odds for that. So, I mean, I wouldn't lay the juice at minus 3,500 or whatever it is personally, but I think that's definitely the right side, assuming is, first of all, they could just not win, and then second, it's like kind of difficult, I would think, to get down on the field, like from the box at the in time to do anything. I don't know. Seems difficult to me. So I would say no.
Yeah, especially in the kind of way that Taylor Swift would demand a proposal. I just don't see it happening in that kind of an environment. But here's another one for you, and Shawn, I'll throw this one over to you. Any player proposing is yes at plus 210, and the no side is at minus 290. So this is any player on any team proposing after the game. What do you think?
I'm going to say no. I mean, I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, minus 290 there. So if you wanted to say no, that Kelsey doesn't do it, you might as well just take no to all players and just take that minus 290 line, right? As opposed to the minus 3,500.
I just think it's a bad idea. So I've been at 5 sporting events where there's been a mid game proposal, not by a player, but like a fan or something. Twice out of the 5 times they've said no. So I just think it seems like your chances, it seems like it's just not a good idea because it's not the right atmosphere, clearly. So
yeah. And for the record, everybody out there who's listening, just know that none of these bets are probably good ideas, at least from a pro perspective. This is all just for fun and games here. And none of these are being suggested that we take any of these. But also, speaking of not good ideas, we in the In-Play Live community know that tailing Drake is never a good idea. And one of the lines coming out here is, who will Drake support? KC at minus 170 or San Fran at plus 130. Where do you guys lean? Todd, do you have a lean on this one? Who's Drake going to go with?
I would never lay the juice on minus 170, but I expect Drake to go with the Chiefs.
Yeah, I think you're right there. Any disagreement, John or Shawn?
Not for his brand. I mean, Kelsey, Swift, everybody's going to go that route, I think. I mean, it's just like everything we're seeing. Every 12-year-old girl is probably betting on the Chiefs because of Taylor Swift. Everyone's over there. So
everyone, you're right. Everyone's over there. All the superstars, all the famous people, they're all going to that side. And hey, maybe that just means opportunity for us. All right. With that being said, just as we wrap it up here, guys, I'm going to go around the horn one more time. But this is your best bet for the Super Bowl or early lean. And I know we've already brought up the under. You're all on the under. So I'm removing that from the equation. You can't say the under. All right. That's out. But your best bet leading into the Super Bowl, or perhaps something you're eyeing live. John, go ahead. What's your best bet ahead of the game?
Best bet. I guess I'll go ahead and take it since I have to go first. I'll take San Francisco -2. I think it's the right side. Sometimes when it comes to a side, I just think about what's the easiest thing to do, and the easiest thing to do is definitely not lay points with Brock Purdy in the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes. There's nothing easy about that, so I will take the hard path and take San Francisco -2.
Oh, I love it. I like that explanation too. Taking the hard path, right? It's the hard path that leads to success, not the easy one. Shawn, where are you going?
That's definitely where I was going to go. So what I would probably look to do is, I really like right after a team scores, you get an extra point or two, usually for about 30 seconds to a minute on the algorithm. So that's something that if KC scores, I'm probably just going to take the San Francisco line and try to get the 3, 7, 10 key numbers. I will ladder that throughout the entire game, probably on both sides, to be honest, off a key number, depending on my exposure and depending on that number.
Wow, love it. Ta, over to you. Best bet, lean, something you're looking for live?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of mentioned a few bets I already like today. That same game parlay that I was talking about earlier is pretty high on the list for me as far as not the thing I'm not betting besides the under. And the other one, specifically the second half under, is something I'm looking at as probably because I think just the way these two teams play the game, I could see the first and second quarter being a little higher scoring, but I expect the second half to really slow both teams to either of them being in the lead to slow the game down, but also to that point, looking at potentially the highest scoring quarter. If you want another pregame bet, the second quarter could potentially be higher scoring as the highest scoring. I think you can get that at plus, I forget, but it's plus 170 or something. But I probably won't bet that, but I was looking at it, and that's how I expect the game to go. But really live looking at that second half under specifically.
Great insight from all three of you. I want to thank all of the three of you for coming on the show and kind of sharing your thoughts with us. It's also really interesting to hear when you all kind of are arriving at similar conclusions ahead of the game that is very different than what the public is doing. I mean, I think that's just critical, valuable information for our audience. So please, everybody, sort of listen to that, at least absorb it, take it into account as you kind of make your pregame decisions, and take a lot of their advice as you look at the game live. And we encourage you to bet live. And if you want to see what In Play Live is all about on the inside, again, that promo code for you is Behind the Lines, all caps. But another great tool that we have available for everybody that's a member, and we offer a discount if you are a part of In Play Live. So for everybody in the community, if you're interested, when you're watching the game and you're looking at lines and you're trying to shop lines, we've got OddsJam giving us a quick and easy look, a nice way to kind of just see what all the books are offering all at once. And it's a nice, quick and easy way to kind of go all right, well, I want to jump on the 49ers now because the Chiefs just scored, and I know I can get the line at kind of what Shawn's alluding to. I can get the line at +3 now on the San Fran side. But where am I getting the best odds to get that +3? OddsJam lays it all out for you. Nice and easy, and it makes it that much more efficient for you to get to the line you want in the amount of time that you might require, which oftentimes is only 30 seconds maybe before the line changes again. So very crucial to get to the line in time, and OddsJam helps you do that. All right, John Wilson, Shawn Schroeder, Todd Goodman. Guys, just want to say thank you to all three of you again for coming on the show, but also thank you to all three of you for everything you did all season long in terms of pumping out the pregame calls, making the calls live, grinding it in, day out, every Sunday for however many weeks, 17 weeks, plus the playoffs, and now on Super Bowl day. So thank you for the hard work that all three of you put in. I appreciate it, and I know many, many members of the community appreciate it. And hopefully all of our audience appreciates you guys coming on and sharing that valuable information. All right, till next week, and including the Super Bowl, beat those Bucks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join In Play Live, use promo code Behind the Lines.